Hey, Katie.
Hey, David.
The intro music isn't playing yet. What's going on?
I don't know. Has the podcast even started yet? How do we do this? We've never
I'm
done
not
this
sure.
before.
An official start to the podcast. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit before we get in today's podcast episode where I interview Sam Black from CovenantEyes. And that's because I did this recording with him a week before annual meeting.
Wow.
And then at annual meeting, a resolution came out that I was like,
Yeah.
wow, this is going to be so timely. And so I felt it would be good for our listeners to hear about this resolution, kind of the behind the scenes of the wording. And if you could just share what was this resolution about and what challenges and charge does that give to us as Texas Baptists?
Yeah, it was a really exciting kind of last-minute submission to the Resolutions Committee just for broader Texas Baptist insider baseball for our listeners. I am the staff liaison for the Resolutions Committee. It's a position that I've had the privilege of holding since I started here in 2019. So typically the process is a messenger or a member of the Resolutions Committee can present a resolution for consideration. And this year we were thinking there actually wouldn't be any. There hadn't been a lot of conversation, hadn't heard any people bringing it forward. It has happened before where somebody just kind of cold, drops one in at the very day of, but it's not the norm for something like that. But I was talking to one of the members of the Resolutions Committee, and I shared with them that I find the resolutions to be incredibly helpful because as a CLC team, it really kind of gives us direction on where the messengers are standing on a particular issue on any given day.
Yeah.
Some people even say that the Baptist General Convention of Texas only actually exists for 2 days a year when they all come together, because obviously we're a collection of all these churches. And so resolutions from a policy Christian Life Commission perspective, they're really helpful in maybe even giving us marching orders or kind of helping us prioritize what are the needs of the churches right now. As part of our convention assignment is to resource churches, what resources are they asking for? And resolutions is a really handy way to know what kind of resources would be a helpful thing for the messengers of the churches. So he was curious about that comment. And so one of the things that I do when I work with the Resolutions Committee is I have a list of resolutions that go back a bajillion years, like actual bajillion years. And so he just kind of started looking over what are past issues that we've spoken into that we haven't maybe, or what's something that's missing here. And in his research, he realized that we hadn't done a resolution on pornography since 1986.
Oh, wow. Like
yeah.
all the 80s.
The 80s.
Okay, yeah.
So, I was 1 year old in 1986, so I wouldn't have been applicable to me, but my understanding is back in those days, essentially, if you wanted access to pornography, you would have had to go to a store and actually show ID and get it. It was kind of the dirty magazines at the convenience store on the corner or something like that. It is a totally different ballgame in 2025 with the proliferation of obviously the internet, but then also as the committee started talking, the use of artificial intelligence in the pornography industry really kind of shifted the capacity and reach. And so that was even something that we included within the resolution itself then, was addressing that AI has fundamentally shifted this. Because one of the questions also from the committee was, well, why talk about this now? Why this issue? Why now? And the Resolutions Committee really landed on because it's just different now. Some things have changed to such a monumental way that we have to say something now. Whatever we said in 1986, as good as it was, it's just outdated at this point.
Yeah, outdated, not just the AI, but the accessibility and just also how hardcore stuff is and how violent stuff is, and how easy it is for anyone to view. It's such a different landscape now. You just kind of assume, if you're in youth ministry, you just kind of assume, sadly, that most of your youth have been exposed to pornography or are even maybe addicted to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's everywhere from their watches to their, game consoles to their phones and everything. It's not just on the family computer anymore.
Yeah. So can you tell us some of what was in this resolution?
Yeah, it starts off as in most traditional resolutions where you have the whereas, and I'm sure we'll have, instead of reading all of that as riveting as I know people love listening to these, but we'll definitely have a copy of it. It is readily available. But it begins by recognizing first and foremost that the Bible teaches that all people are created in the image of God and that God's design for human sexuality is to be expressed within the covenant of marriage between one man and one woman. They really wanted to start with that fundamental, look, we're talking about this because there's some biblical precedents here. We have biblical principles and foundations that we're going to build off of. And then from there, we decided to just go ahead and call it out. We haven't talked about this since 1986, and that was an important thing to kind of lay the foundation of saying this is why we're talking about it, and then leading into because AI is on the scene now, because of the reach of the pornography industry has just become so expansive. It's just the water our kids are swimming in. If they have access to something digital, it's reaching for them. And then just reading, recognizing that the modern online environment has made pornographic content more accessible than any other time in history. And the research that we're seeing now, just this flood of research of the negative impact that it's having on men and women, distorted expectations about sex, relationship, addictive behaviors, violence, dehumanizing attitudes. I mean, the list can go on and on and on of all those things. And we wanted to make sure that it was recognized in there. We recognize pornography as a public health crisis, that it was not just something that was affecting our internally, but it was actually impacting the collective health of our communities, really across Texas and the world. And that Christians are supposed to care about these things, that when we see something so pervasive, so predatory in nature as the pornography industry, this is something that Christians are called to speak out against and to protect the vulnerable, to expose the works of darkness and walk in the light of God's grace, truth, repentance, and restoration. That's language from the resolution as well. And so those are the whereases. These are all the reasons why we care about those. So, because we care about these things, we wanted to be resolved that Texas Baptists commit to leading out and opposing the plague of pornography, recognizing that it's an issue of the heart that demands a repentant, biblical, compassionate, prophetic, pastoral, redemptive response. And so we wanted to encourage churches to advocate for state and local policies. Our CLC team has been active on that. We supported a bill that required age verification on pornography websites that went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and we won that. We were so excited about that, and we'd signed on an amicus brief for that. And so we received affirmation for our work on that, but it was a call for more people to care about advocating and caring about restrictions that would help particularly protect children, but all people. And then also a resolution to urge pastors and parents, congregations, for everyone to provide clear teaching on this. It's one of those issues I don't regularly hear sermons about. I don't remember the last time I maybe heard a Sunday morning message about something like this. It's an uncomfortable subject. It's also one that's hard to address when you've got youth and young ears in the room. And so finding ways to address this from a church perspective that is respectful, but also honest and empowering to our churches to be able to address this in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and that's perfect because that leads right into what the discussion was about with Sam Black, because his book is all about how to get churches to a place where they can talk about this and do a better job of helping people who are struggling. That's
so perfect. And so, it was really interesting. Even after the day after that this resolution came out, we already started receiving inquiries for resources. And so,
just give us more than 24 hours, please. We haven't even driven home yet.
This is step one, this podcast. Yes. But, Lord willing, this will be a resource that we'll be able to provide to churches. Obviously, CovenantEyes is a great resource as well. I've been able to look through their website. They've got some great resources for families as well. If you're looking for kind of a first step, a lot of free resources, which is also great. You don't have to purchase all the things to be able to have access to some really good content if you're just looking for how to initiate having conversations.
Yep. Well, thank you for your time. And now we will cue the music. Do you want to do a little bit of music for us?
I can't. That's not even our song.
Hey, maybe it's the same key, though, and that in and of itself will be impressive. Let's see.
There we go. Okay.
Welcome to What is Good, podcast from the Texas Baptist Christian Life Commission, where we explore contemporary cultural issues through a biblical lens. Micah 6:8 says that God has told us what is good, that we're to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with Him. So whether you're seeking a better understanding of how to live that out, or you're just curious to understand a Christian perspective of what's happening in our culture, we hope that you'll find today's conversation helpful as we discuss what is good.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What is Good, the podcast of the Christian Life Commission. Today, I'm your sole host, Dr. David Sanchez, Director of Ethics and Justice and Associate Director. But I'm not the only person talking. So even though I'm the sole host, you think my odds might be pretty good to be the coolest person on the podcast, but I really don't know about that. You'll have to listen to the outtakes to know for
You are
sure.
the coolest on this podcast.
I don't know about that. But I have with me Sam Black, who just tell us who you are, Sam. I don't know that I know all that you do. So I just share who you are, and then we'll talk about why you're on our podcast.
My name is Sam Black, and I am the Director of Recovery Education at CovenantEyes. I've been with CovenantEyes for 19 years. I've got to occupy many roles in that time, but my passion is to really help people understand the impact of pornography, understand how it's impacting their lives, and find lasting freedom.
That's awesome.
That's my goal. That's it. That's what I geek out about.
Yeah.
I'm a certified coach, and we're creating massive amounts of content for people to really engage and understand and grow and learn. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. There might be someone out there who listening to this podcast has never heard yet of what CovenantEyes is. Oh, yeah. I heard about them. I want to say it was back in 2000. When was it started?
2000. We've
2000?
been around for 25 years.
Yeah, I probably started using CovenantEyes as just an accountability software and filter back in 2001, I think.
Outstanding. You've been with us from the beginning.
I'm an
wow,
OG member.
You are OG.
I'm not going to calculate how much I've spent over the years on that software, but it's been worth every penny. Honestly, like for most of my battle for pornography begins and ends with me thinking my wife is going to get an email at the end of this month and it's going to show where I've been and what I've been doing. And oftentimes that is enough to stop the temptation right there. So
a lot of people say that just knowing that I'm going to be open with someone else when we're in an isolated state, we're weak. Ecclesiastes tells us this very clearly, right? That two can defend themselves.
Yes.
But woe to the person who's alone, right? They're going to get beat up. And so that is one of the key factors of having something like CovenantEyes, accountability software that is taking individual screenshots and sharing what your devices are doing online. It runs through artificial intelligence, so it blurs it first, and then all of it happens on your device, and then a blurred version of that and a rating of that image goes to someone you choose, an ally. We call them an ally because an ally has your back. They want to see you succeed. They know where your struggles are at. You've been open and honest with them. And so you're no longer alone. And we do offer filtering as well. So you can have the combination of the two that really help block temptations, but also if I'm going somewhere intentionally, what does that look like? What if I get something on my device that is like, man, I didn't need to go there. Well, great. I call up my ally and say, hey, you're going to get this on my report.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like. And this is my reaction to it.
So I'm very much the type of person who doesn't want any kind of digital footprint at all. So I don't have customized ads. Like I hate customized ads. I don't want the ads that make me feel like they've been watching me and seeing where I'm going. It's almost impossible to avoid, but sometimes you can turn off customized ads. And I feel like that oftentimes makes things worse. Like just on YouTube, if I'm on YouTube at 1 p.m., the ads that will come up will show like a dad dancing with his daughters and say, get 5G internet. If I'm on YouTube at 1 a.m. and all it knows about me is my age and the fact that I'm a male, it's going to be trying to give me a Ukrainian wife or, some sort of hypersexualized AI caricature of a genuine human being who's made in God's image. And saying, dating here or worse. It's just the world we live in, right?
Yeah, that's true. You said something that you share your activity on your devices with your wife.
Yes.
And I talked about having an ally, someone that has your back and you trust. We actually encourage, and there's probably some listeners going, man, I don't want to share that with my wife. Would I cause that impact on her? Or,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
How can you have open and really honest discussions about the triggers you're facing, etc.?
Right.
So we actually encourage, a spouse should be able to see what they need to see. But we really encourage you to have an ally who is a friend, not your spouse. And that allows you to have conversations about, what are the triggers, or what are the things that were going on that day that maybe created some tension or some temptation.
Right.
So,
right. And it's not that you're trying to hide anything from your spouse, but it's tough.
Yeah. 18 years ago, I remember looking over my wife's shoulder, and there was, at that time, all the reports came through email. Today, they're go through an app called Victory. Mm-hmm. But back then, the reports came by email.
Just back in our day, right?
And I looked over my wife's shoulder, and I see all these reports that are unopened. And I said, don't you ever look at those? And she goes, no, that's what I've got Brian for. Right? So there was a security in knowing that we had agreed on an individual that we both trusted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That Sam could talk to.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I do have other people, like for actual accountability. My wife is not my accountability partner. Yeah. She's just who came up because she's the first person that comes to my mind when I think, who's going to see this report?
Right, yeah. That's good.
So the CovenantEyes has been around as a software and as a tool for decades now.
Yeah, 25 years.
But I think what I've been impressed by is how much more, like you were just saying, how much more content is out there and available in terms of resources for individuals and for churches. One of those things is specifically, maybe you've seen this book before. It's called The Healing Church, What Churches Get Wrong About Pornography and How to Fix It, by Sam Black. And that would be you. So I have really enjoyed reading this book, not in the way that it's a fun read, but I'll get into what I liked about it more. But first, I just want to ask, there are so many books out there for Christians on the topic of pornography nowadays. And I'm sure you've read many of them, as have I. So what makes this book different from most, or what need did you see yourself trying to fill in writing this that you couldn't find in any of the other books you were reading?
Right. Thank you. I was going on a tour of conferences. I'd been speaking at 27 different conferences in 2019.
My goodness.
And I heard again and again from ministry leaders over the years, as well as from parents, as well as from individuals who are struggling. And there seemed to be a huge disconnect, a big disconnect between how often ministry leaders saw to address the issue, or how do I begin starting this conversation?
Right.
And those who were saying, I'm struggling, but I don't know of a way that I can engage my church with this. So both sides were saying, we need help. And that's what really prompted me to write the book. I wrote the book as a primer for ministry leaders and pastors to help them understand how people get stuck, both men and women and children, why they often stay stuck without help, and how the church can be a safe place with a safe process that takes people through discipleship toward meaningful change. Not just, hey, I said a prayer for you and I think you're going to be okay now, but really engaging and discipling them and helping them not find temporary freedom from pornography, but long-lasting freedom from pornography.
Yeah, I'll say just right away, one of the things that stood out to me about this book, I think of many of the books that I have picked up and read, and I would say the majority are written by Christian men for Christian men with the sometimes spoken, sometimes unspoken assumption that this is much more of a problem for men than it is for women. And also in a way where it's just assuming that all of the struggles are only with opposite sex attraction. And I felt like your book was one of the few I've picked up where whether you're a man or a woman, I guess my fear was someone will pick up one of those sorts of books and think, well, this book isn't actually for me because my struggle is different. And in feeling different, I feel other. And in feeling other, I feel, like more helpless.
Yeah.
Like, because I get the feeling that no one's really struggling the way I'm struggling, so it's not going to be helpful for me to share. Whether it's a woman saying like, I'm struggling as a woman, but they're saying it's only a men problem. Or if it's a guy struggling with same-sex attraction and saying, well, all these other guys are just talking about being attracted to women, and that's not my struggle. I just felt like anyone could pick up this book and read it and not feel left out.
Yeah, it's amazing the number of people who've come to me and said, Sam, I read this book in hopes of giving it to my pastor, but when I read it, I learned more about myself, whether they are a woman or a man or a teen. And that's very encouraging, that they learn to grow and find, oh, this is what I've been missing. These are the parts that I've been trying to put together that I didn't understand why I do what I do, even though I don't want to do it. Like this is Paul's struggle, right? But as we dive deeper in, we can understand why pornography has had such a grip on us. And there's often a very straightforward formula for this that I point out in the book, that early exposure as a child. It was a setup. I mean, a child was never prepared for the pornography that they're seeing, right?
Yeah.
And then the ongoing use through adolescence, especially if there's been some trauma, it becomes an escape. And those three things go together, the early exposure, the ongoing use, and some trauma that can impact you at any time in life, but typically it happens in younger ages. And that is at a young age, you begin using pornography throughout adolescence. And by the time we get to adulthood, we're told, listen, God's not for that.
Yeah.
He doesn't like pornography. You need to stay away from that. And they're like, man, I really would like to. I would really like to leave this behind, but I have promised myself and I've promised God and I've promised others that I would never go back to pornography again. And yet I keep falling. Why is that? Why can I not stay in Christ's freedom for my life? He has so much for me, but I can't seem to snag onto that and hold on for the long term.
Yeah. So you were saying that pastors feel like I don't know how to address it, but I also sometimes get the feeling that there are pastors who are not addressing it for other reasons. Like perhaps they feel like, oh, this is a stone I just don't want to unturn because of all of all the stuff that's
it's an
come
uncomfortable
out.
conversation,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
it's
is.
like, how do I? And it's not that pastors maybe not are willing to know it's an issue. I've heard many pastors say, I don't know where to start the conversation. It just seems so awkward and out of place. And as soon as I do bring it up, all the guys and women in the church go quiet. And a big part of that is there's a lack of safety, because if you knew who I was, if you knew the way I was struggling, if you knew what I did last night, would you still love me? I don't think you would.
Right. That's the inner monologue. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the internal monologue that's going. And if we can help people enter a safe place and a safe process and allow them to be fully known, right? In a place where, let's put it in this way. Safety in the church is often on the spectrum, right?
Okay.
On one side of the spectrum, it is very safe to be struggling in some way with whatever it is. In fact, we all have struggles, so don't even worry about talking about it because, hey, God understands and it's okay.
Right.
And so there's never any call to change. On the other side, it is not okay for people to have struggles with pornography in the church, especially if you have a Christian, especially if you grew up in the church, especially if you're a member of the church. My goodness, you should not have any struggles. And if you are, then maybe you're not the Christian we expect you should be.
Right.
And so that's not safe either. And so what we need to be is more in the middle of that, where it's okay to come as you are.
Right.
But we love you too much to leave you stuck where you are. And we want to help walk you through not only in a safe place, but with a safe process that helps you uncover and reveal why pornography has had such a grip on your life and why it continues to have such a grip on your life.
Yeah. I can, my mind is thinking New Testament, in Corinth specifically, and I'm thinking of Corinth because it just reminds me, like, church, we're not going through something new. when it comes to sexual brokenness.
Mm-hmm.
And that even in the church in Corinth, you had people still going to the temple prostitutes even after becoming believers, and Paul having to write to them about that. Like, yes, Christ has died for you, but that doesn't mean you can just say food is for the stomach and the stomach for food. And on the other hand, you had people being so legalistic that they weren't even being intimate with their spouse. And Paul's like, well, this is kind of also wrong. And so, like, the middle ground of between, my theological brain is saying antinomianism and legalism, but the way you said it probably makes more sense to people listening, which is, how did you say it again? Like, saying, well, we all know we all struggle, so let's just be okay with each other's struggles, but not have any accountability, or we're all pretending to the point where we can't even open up about them. Yeah.
Bam, that's it. Because if you knew I was struggling, would you accept me? But when you do, when you say, Sam, man, I heard what you said, and it sounds like you've been really struggling for a long time with this since childhood, through adolescence. My goodness, and now you're an adult man in marriage trying to find your way out of this. This is going to be a hard road, but I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to stay with you. And rather than just saying a prayer with you, why don't we dig a little deeper and investigate? There's some cool courses in this Victory app that can help me understand how I got here in the first place and how I can take meaningful steps day by day toward lasting freedom in Christ. Yes, I want. And I'm like, yes, David, I want that. I'll stick with you too. Thank you for hearing me and being willing to walk with me. I need you.
Yeah.
Right? We need each other in the body of Christ.
Yeah, and leading with openness. Maybe that's part of what pastors find challenging, of to find even what's the appropriate place to say when and where they have had their own struggles, to be able to say, I've struggled, so I'm not going to judge you with whatever you're sharing you struggled with. I think that is a challenge. Like, is that something you share from the pulpit, or do you do it more in small groups, or is there like a way in which you share maybe less at the pulpit and more in small groups? What's your advice there?
Well, let's face it, it's very difficult for pastors and ministry leaders to say, this is my struggle, this has been my struggle in the past, and yada, yada, yada. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's very easy for you in your church. Maybe that's been you've practiced that in your ministry. And if you had, that's really great.
Right.
But in some churches, it's not safe for the pastor, right, to say, hey, I have struggled in this way. Because people are going to be like, oh, well, you're supposed to be above reproach, and you're never supposed to have any struggles and no issues. And we put pastors in an impossible situation, I think.
Sure. That
they have to have been born innocent and stayed innocent their entire lives, or they had one victory story, and from then on they never had any more failures. Well, that's just not realistic, right?
Right.
They probably have some place and somewhere where they've struggled in life, and maybe that's the way they can talk about it. Maybe it's saying, there's been times when I've struggled with depression, and I need others to walk with me through that. Or maybe it's because, hey, I've had struggles in my marriage because I said things to my wife that wasn't good, right? When we go, as a church body, we don't have any problem with having a marriage class or going to a marriage retreat and learning to practice good marriage communication and principles. And because, I act just like my dad did sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Well, where did I get that? I got that from my family of origin, and I grew up with that. And now and it's not wrong. You act just like your dad, or you act just like your mom. Hey, we need to analyze that and go, how can I begin changing that kind of dynamic where I'm honoring and respectful to my wife, how I'm loving and caring for her, how I can mitigate my anger when I'm triggered. Well, these are the same things that we can learn for people who are struggling with pornography. We can go through a safe process that helps us understand what are the roots of my compulsive behavior or just my behavior in general, and what are things that trigger me to run toward pornography. Why can I have difficulty turning the other way, and what could I do instead?
Yeah.
How could I do that well? So we can learn and grow, and that's just discipleship. That's sanctification. It's learning. It's ridding ourselves of the old and bringing in God's new.
Yeah. And if anyone's wondering, like, not that they should, but is this the biblical model? It's 2 Timothy 2:22. flee youthful lust, and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace with those who call upon God from a pure heart. I like to call that verse the horror movie verse, because if you're running from something but you don't have anywhere that you're running to, you're going to get got. And especially if you're by yourself.
Right.
And this is exactly how the enemy wants us to deal with our sins, is by myself and just saying, I can't do it, I've got to stop, and just beating yourself up. And yet you're still thinking about it the whole time while saying you can't do it. And not asking, what is the need that I'm trying to fill? Mm-hmm. And then saying, all right, God, what's a way that I can meet this need, which is not just wholesome, but which is honoring you, and which is actually like fulfilling the work of your kingdom.
Right. I love what you brought up there. 2 Timothy 2:22. It's run from.
Yeah.
We're running from sin. We're running to something more.
Yeah.
Right? And God's design is beautiful. Pornography is not sex. It's a hijacking of what God created. It is a super stimulus that is just not realistic in relationship, right? It is just,
right. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, the depravity.
Yeah.
So run from, run to, and run with. We don't do this alone, just like you said.
Yeah. So if I'm wanting to run with others and I'm wanting to be in an accountability group, I have definitely, without having had any kind of tools for what is a good accountability group supposed to be, I've definitely been a part of good ones and part of bad ones. And honestly, I would walk away from those and be like, I'm not sure what made this one work and what made this one not work. And so I think I could even benefit from hearing again, even though I just heard it in the book. I'm an auditory learner sometimes. If you could share, like, what are the characteristics of a healthy accountability group that's going to do this well, and not just a group of guys or girls who just get together and say, "Yeah, I messed up again this week." Like what makes it more than just a report card sort of session?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. Well, I loved where you said I'm an auditory learner. There's also a audio version.
Oh, yes. I should have plugged
whether it's
that,
on
yeah.
Barnes & Noble or Amazon or Audible, etc. So you can take advantage of that too. You know, back in the day, there were some Christian organizations that offered a little accountability checklist, right? And it asks you a bunch of questions of, did you do this and did you do that? And did you not do this and did you not do that? And then you got to the last question, and it said, did you lie about any of the ones above? And I found that if you lied about any of the ones before, you definitely lied about the last one. So, so where do I get honest? Well, there can be no vulnerability without safety, right? There can be no accountability without vulnerability, without safety. And unless there's a place where I know that I can have trust and know that you have my best interest in mind, and not just that they're waiting with a sort of a stick or an easy answer or what have you, then I'm going to have trouble being open and honest.
Right.
So the more vulnerable we are with each other and the more honest we are with each other, the more that grows. The more we hold back, the more that accountability group is just motions. Mm-hmm. I just returned from a summit of the Samson Society, and they do something really cool. They start off with talking about that what is said here stays here, that they're under strictest confidence. You know, the idea is that what you say to me, you can say anything you need to. You can shout, you can be upset, you can say, this is where I'm falling, whatever it is. And you have the secure knowledge that I'm not going to go blab it all over the rest of the church.
Right.
This is from my own story. And I wasn't a Christian. My wife was taking my kids, my babies, to church on her own. And she came to me one day and she said, hey, Sam, would you be willing to go with me to this marriage class? And I said, you know, I knew our marriage needed help. Mm-hmm. And I went with her to that class, and the facilitators of that class did something really peculiar that I'd never seen happen in church before. they turned and closed the door to the classroom, and they looked around, they smiled real big and said, "This is a safe place. What is said here stays here." And what I didn't know was both of them had been in recovery themselves. And they had learned to facilitate safety and also a good process for direction. And in with that class, people said terrible things about their spouse that they thought and heard and said, and and
wow.
In that class is where I learned that pornography could be addictive, and that was a great relief to me because that meant evolution didn't make me this way, and God didn't make me this way,
Right?
And I didn't have to stay this way, right? So from that secular person, I was going, am I just designed to be this way in some way? And so when I had men who were saying, "Sam, we'll walk with you because we've been there too," that made the whole difference in the world. That changes the whole dynamic. No longer was I trying to fight this battle on my own. I had others to walk with me.
Yeah.
And they were showing me some of those books you were talking about, and how, why is pornography, why do I keep engaging this when I say I don't want to? How can I change this?
That's really good. I think that makes a lot of sense. Like you're going to get out of it what you put into it, but I would say it really takes the work of the Holy Spirit, right? To have a group that's going to be humble with each other, to where someone's brave enough to take the lead, and then when everyone realizes, "Oh, we're not jumping on them, well, maybe I can share as well," and it starts an actual culture of vulnerability.
Yeah. And how cool is it that the Holy Spirit in you speaks to the Holy Spirit in me?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Working through your heart is helping me solve the struggles that I'm having in my heart.
Right. I mean, and that's something I've come to experience and also just seen sometimes firsthand. I've shared with you before, I speak on ministry to people who struggle with LGBTQ issues. And every once in a while, after one of my talks, someone will come up to me visibly shaking and saying, and basically choosing me to be the first person that they share about their struggles. And you just see a burden lift from, I'm no longer keeping this inside to myself.
Right.
Just getting it out is like a part of the healing process. And you just you can just see a change on their countenance when after they share, my response is not one of condemnation, but just listening, asking good questions, and hearing where they are and listening for the Spirit for words to say, not just like shouting verses at them, but really being trying to model the love of Christ. I'm imagining, like, how did Christ compose himself towards the woman caught in adultery? How did Christ compose himself towards the woman at the well? How did Christ compose himself towards Nicodemus, who was going to meet Jesus at night? He didn't say, "No, sorry, you got to come in the daytime. You got to have more guts than you have, Nicodemus."
Yeah.
I'm not going to entertain a conversation if you're ashamed to be seen with me in public. No, he met people where they at. He responded in love. And I feel like when you can model that, when someone shares, that even just the sharing of itself can be a huge, not just a baby step, but like a huge step on the process to recovery.
Isn't it amazing that when you or I share our stories in a vulnerable and open way, that we suddenly become the safest person in the room?
Yeah.
Well, that's true for whoever's listening. When you share your story with someone else that you can trust and others, and after a while, you reach a point where my story is my story, and God has redeemed the story, and I'm not ashamed of it anymore. And this is, and I've spoken to my own, church. I've spoken in churches across the country, but in my own church, and sharing. This is how I was exposed at 10 years old as a child. This is the struggles I had throughout adolescence, and how pornography followed me through college and into my marriage. God has redeemed that. And that is a victory story. But it is also one that allows someone to say, "Oh man, this is where I'm at." Or, this is where my spouse is at. And maybe there's some hope for our family too. we need to be able to step into that as much as you can as a leader, whether that's a lay leader. And often pastors need to find a lay leader or a champion in their church that has done some of this work, or you've nurtured them, you've discipled them specifically one-on-one, and now you've got a champion in your church that can begin speaking out on this issue for you. Because it's prevalent, right?
Yeah. I look for that in churches that I go to when I'm speaking on ministry to LGBTQ. Someone will come out and say, like, this is really speaking to me. I want to become the person that people can come to in my church about this. Sometimes they just have a heart for it. Sometimes they've come out of some of those struggles themselves. And I want to say, if you're at a church and no one is talking about this and you want to become the champion, there are ways and resources through CovenantEyes and other ministries as well, but through CovenantEyes that you could do it. Could you explain more the logistics of what that process would look like? If someone is listening and they're like, you know what, Stink, I think the Holy Spirit is telling me I need to be the person at my church who becomes the one someone can talk to about sexual brokenness.
Yeah. Well, I think The Healing Church, What Churches Get Wrong About Pornography and How to Fix It, is a good manual to help start that.
Okay.
Also, CovenantEyes, we have a team that's dedicated to helping ministry leaders and pastors address this issue in the church. We have a program called 5 Stones. And that 5 Stones project is really designed to equip ministry leaders and pastors. And so there's training for the pastor and ministry leader with the Healing Church, as well as video and other resources that we provide for training.
Okay, just sorry to interrupt, but just to clarify, 5 stones from the 5 stones of David pulling the stones out of the river, not
Indeed,
the Infinity
that's
Stones
where we pulled it
from the
yeah.
Marvel Cinematic Universe, not the Infinity Stones.
That's right. Okay. So you're picking up on the right dynamic. 5 stones. I'm thinking about David as he fought a giant. Mm-hmm. We're facing a giant, right?
Yes.
In the church. 70% of men in the church, 30% of women in church, they have an ongoing struggle. So
yeah, and that's an important stat to hear. I think that's something I think about a lot is similar to our statistics with divorce. You don't see much difference inside the church from outside the church. And the challenge is, yes, we've got to come as we are, but we've also got to learn how to be a light in this world. And that comes through, however long it takes, a patient process of sanctification as the body of Christ.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So, okay. Sorry for my
we have
lame
5 stones.
comic book
No, that's
joke.
good.
Back to
That's
your
good.
stones.
So you can go to our resources and go to the bottom of a resources page, and there's a ministry leaders page that walks you through this, and you can order a kit. And this kit will include, how do I get training for my staff and my team and myself as a ministry leader? 2, this kit will also include QR codes and things, little cards that allow you have a man come to you and says, I'm struggling with pornography. Well, we have this program called Strive. And Strive is a 21-day detox for men to help them understand, well, how did I get here? Why do I seem to stay stuck? And how can I take meaningful steps toward freedom?
Yeah.
We have another program for women. So when a woman comes in and says, hey, this is where I'm struggling, or it's coming to a Sunday school class, you can equip your ministry leaders in your church to help women who are struggling with pornography through that program called Arise. There is a resource for couples and, of course, for families. So take those 5 different aspects that you see very commonly in your church. How can you act now? So we wanted to make this an easy lift. Mm-hmm. Push the easy button.
Yeah.
Because it can feel overwhelming to address these issues. We've kind of just done this for you. And by the way, it's all free. You can't beat free 99. Another great resource for anyone listening, whether it's ministry leaders or just an individual, we offer an app called Victory. And within the Victory app, it's a free app. There are 50 courses in there that walk people through how did I get here? Why do I seem to stay stuck? And how can I take long-term steps toward freedom? And it really guides you. And all of these courses are counselor reviewed, Christian counselor reviewed. So they're both biblical and give you sound guidance toward lasting recovery.
Yeah, and just ask good questions, right? Good penetrating questions that you might not think to ask yourself. I remember once when I was in counseling for other reasons, but I wanted to bring up my past with pornography. where I've had a lot of victory, but nevertheless, I still just wanted to go through I wanted to know what it was like to experience, going to a counselor so I could recommend it to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were sitting there, my counselor just asked me, David, what need are you trying to meet when you go to pornography? And I just thought to myself, I have never asked that question.
Right.
I've just always thought, I'm doing it because I'm a perv, right? Like, that's why. And not even realizing by saying it that way that I'm labeling myself.
Yeah.
I'm almost dehumanizing myself. And that, not seeing myself the way God sees me when I describe myself that way. That's the 1 Corinthians 6, 9 and 10 list. That's not the 1 Corinthians 6, 11, where it says, such were some of you, but now you've been washed, now you've been sanctified. And I just thought, this is such a helpful question, because now instead I'm analyzing what's going on with my heart. What am I idolizing, and how do I get back to God, as opposed to just saying, well, I must keep failing at this because I just have, either or like any number of lies, right? Because evolution has just made me, not happy. I just can't.
Pornography
not
teaches us
happy.
a lot of lies.
Only looking at one person, or just because testosterone, guys, we've got it. It sucks, but that's just, this is just a form of release, and it's okay because no one's being hurt. Which we can get into that whole talk about how that's just a huge lie from the porn industry in and of itself. But I'm starting to ramble a bit.
No, I think you're onto something. And let me give you an example of one of the courses that just kind of pops in my head. There's many other ways we can look at it, but one is, most of the time when people have they fall to pornography, they come out of it and they want to bury it, and they don't run to God immediately and say, God, this is where I failed again. Please forgive me. They're like, I'm going to wait until I'm good enough.
Right. Or until God's not as angry with me. Like like somehow he's going to simmer down. Like when you have an angry parent and you don't want to ask him for a favor until they've calmed down. Yeah.
And so what we do in this course, it's called What You Can Learn from a Relapse. We have a course for men and a course for women. And what you can learn from a relapse is, rather than ignoring and hiding and burying my failure, let's take a minute and examine it. Because if I can learn from that failure, then maybe I won't fall the next time.
Yeah.
So if I had a slip and I have fallen to pornography, well, why did that happen? Well, maybe it was because, I get with you, David, and I say, David, I watched pornography last night. And you say, well, Sam, what happened? Oh, I just had a bad day and And you go, why did you have a bad day? Oh, my wife and I got into it. I came home in a bad mood and she didn't want to hear it. And I just felt dissociated and just ran to pornography. You had a bad day before you got home. What happened then? Oh, well, yeah. So my boss was yelling at me because I missed a deadline and well, what did that feel like? Well, remind me of when I was a kid, my dad would yell at me. So you keep digging, you keep pulling this onion apart, and you go, oh, okay, so I get triggered when I see these kinds of things happen. Well, Sam, what could you do next time?
Right.
That you feel that? Could you give me a call and talk to me on your way home from work? Or could you express how you're feeling and what you're thinking and what you're doing and what you're thinking of doing? What would that look like? Maybe if you put some barriers in place that made you think twice about going to pornography, maybe putting Victory Shield on CovenantEyes Victory Shield on your devices so that they're not just open. Maybe there's something you can call, or maybe you can just put all your devices away. No screen time when you're feeling the struggle, because after you struggle, you feel so bad. What would it take for you to remember just how much shame you feel after you fall into pornography?
Yeah.
Now, see, I've began, instead of letting that failure go to waste, I've learned to examine it. And when you do that, you create more resilience and more strength for the next time that temptation comes. Otherwise, you just keep falling to the same thing over and over again. There's tons of courses like that really help you engage and grow.
Yeah, it's good and it's needed, and I really appreciate it. If someone was at a church where they just feel like, you know what, I'm really not ready to do this with the people I know who are in my life. I know of a number of people who instead just found an accountability group online. Where could they get that? Because I know that sometimes is helpful, and it actually is the help that they're needing, like this complete anonymity. And yet now I feel like I can be completely open and honest, because I'm probably never going to see any of these people in real life, but we're all still here and we're being real and sharing. I've heard from a number of people that their victory came through like a specific accountability group that was like 6 weeks or 6 months or a year process.
SamsonSociety.com is an organization of Christian men who are supporting one another in their journey toward freedom. Now, most of the time it's pornography and unwanted sexual behaviors, but sometimes it's alcohol or drugs or food or other things that people are struggling with. All of them are welcome. And so it's free. You can, again, SamsonSociety.com. You attend a newcomer meeting. They walk you through how a meeting runs, and then you get to go into a safe place, a Zoom space, or there's in-person meetings as well. I certainly think Celebrate Recovery and Regeneration Recovery are both great recovery groups as well.
Right. Regeneration is a ministry of Watermark. Is that correct?
It started at Watermark, but now it's national.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So Regeneration Recovery as well as Celebrate Recovery.
Those are cool. And I have to say that that's probably another thing that I really appreciated about your book was that you actually mention a lot of other ministries. You don't try and corner the market and make CovenantEyes the one solution to your porn addiction. Like you're very aware that that there are a lot of good ministries out there, and maybe it's going to be one of those other ones is what somebody needs, as opposed to just CovenantEyes. So I really appreciated that about your work. Was that intentional, trying to plant in all these other?
Absolutely. Let's face it. If your marriage is struggling from infidelity or something of that nature, if your pornography use has just continued to go out of control, why not go to an intensive for a weekend at, say, an organization like Begin Again Institute, or an in-person program, a live-in program, I should say, at Hope Quest Group near Atlanta. Fantastic resources to really help you beyond knowledge, which we're providing, as well as accountability software. Now you're getting in some intense counseling and support, and I've never met anybody who went through those and go, I don't think that was worth it. I didn't get much out of that. I've never heard that from anybody I've spoken to about that.
So again, we just want to remind our listeners, your book is called The Healing Church: What Churches Get Wrong About Pornography and How to Fix It. I'd say it's intentionally trying to be a holistic resource to it's not just slamming churches for what they got wrong. It's That's really more. Right. I really feel like it's trying to. It's got a hopeful view of the church, and it's trying to equip churches. It's not a hit piece that's trying to just call the church out for how we failed. It's more like, this is set up for failure. We haven't been trained with how to talk about this. No one got this in seminary.
Right.
Pastors don't know how to mention it with their congregations. Pastors don't know how to deal with the struggle for themselves. And you're saying, hey, guess what? There are actually so many resources out there. There is now so much good counseling that we can draw from for both men and women, for couples, for parents raising kids. And here's just a nice summary and overview of all of it in one book. So I really thank you so much, and appreciate the work that you've done and the work that you and CovenantEyes is doing. We actually met because a member of my church works for CovenantEyes, and I believe our whole church is going to be adopting it at Meadow Ridge Community in Fort Worth in the near future. I'm not sure what all that looks like, but that's really exciting. I'm glad that it's a topic that we're choosing to face honestly, and instead of just
Yeah. Let me tell you let me say one more thing about the book that I think is really important for a ministry leader. This is not just Sam Black talking, right? Yeah, some of my stories in there.
Right.
Some of my recovery journey has been there. Some of my experiences are in there as well. But I went to churches that were doing this work well across the United States. I wanted to find good examples of how churches were creating vulnerable spaces and how they were creating safe processes that we can repeat again and again for other churches. And I interviewed more than 70 pastors, ministry leaders, counselors, people who had been through recovery, went through more than 70 books and studies and research programs, all to equip ministry leaders to address this well. Like you said, this is not a hit job. It's a support job. It's allowed. We want to allow you to have a good understanding that can really create meaningful change.
So another way to say it is what churches get wrong about pornography and how to fix it. And how to fix it is not you saying, all right, church, here's how to get your act together. It's, I see churches doing this well, and here's what they did that you can emulate. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We do like to end our podcast by talking about what is good, and that's where we share something from our lives that we're thankful for that's going on in the world. It could be personal or family, church, community, or broader world related. I'll go first so you can get an example of what this is like, as opposed to just throwing you into the deep end on our own podcast. Unfortunately, I'm the only example, so you'll just have to hear me and then go from there. But my what is good is that this morning, my niece delivered a new baby girl. And it's a huge praise, because she was going to be born at 31 weeks. This child was ready to come into the world, and my niece had to be on bed rest for about 3 weeks. They said, if we can get her to this day, then we'll just go ahead and go with the labor this day. And they made it to this day, and now she's with us in the world. And I'm thankful for a whole family of faith, that just the way everyone was responding and all of the prayers. And it was a good story for me to see that go well. And yeah,
that is awesome. That's so cool. Oh, wow. The first thing that comes to my mind is that next week I'm celebrating 30 years of marriage.
Oh, wow.
And that is cool in and of itself.
Yes.
But having been at CovenantEyes and seeing how pornography has destroyed so many marriages, I am so grateful for the church and God's grace that helped me not to get to celebrate 30 years of marriage. Because if it wasn't for the church, if it wasn't for saints in the church, then I'm not sure where I would be or what things could have happened. I can only be grateful for that.
You brought it back to our discussion. You were free
not to, but I'm really, I'm at 30 years. It is. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Praise God and congratulations. And that just reminded me, another resource, a great podcast is the Pure Desire podcast.
Yes.
And I was listening to it very recently, and they were just talking about people need a mentality of, I go to church because the church is where we do the hard the difficult things to heal. Not I need to get healed so that I can be a functioning member of the church. But this is what the church is. This is what we do. We help each other with our difficult problems. We talk about the messes that are going on in our lives, which we can talk about because we know Christ has already died for all of it.
Right.
But now we also want to live for him. So we can speak in freedom. We can speak with only the appropriate amount of shame, if that makes sense, for what we've done, not just beating ourselves up. And the church can be a place where we can find healing, and that's what we're supposed to be about. Yeah.
Amen.
So thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of What is Good with Sam Black. Check out his book. I'll have it in the show notes along with some of the other resources that we mentioned. And you'll hear us next time. Before I forget, I'm just going to get a screen cap of us. Smile. And I think I'll say Sam Black was really impressed with all of my
Yeah, right?
figurines.
Like my Star Wars lunchbox up there.
Oh, that's cool. You'll appreciate, back here in the back is a Masters of the Universe record.
Mandalorian helmet.
Oh, a Mandalorian. Wow. Was that 3D printed? I like the color on that hat.
Yeah, it was 3D printed.
Are you into 3D printing, or you had a friend, or you ordered it?
A friend down the street made it.
Made a friend. Wow, you have cool friends down the street. I need to move to your neighborhood if they're just making Mandalorian armor for you. So did you incorporate that into like a costume or anything?
I haven't yet, but I do have a Stormtrooper costume.
Oh, like, are you part of the 501st? Like, you put it together yourself?
I haven't yet, but I just got this thing, so I'm totally
yeah, I'm happy to save all this. This
can.
Is definitely going to be in the outtakes. People need to know how cool you are. If it doesn't come across during our talking about our topic.